You ever walk into your own home and feel like a stranger? Like the place somehow doesn't belong to you anymore? That was me. Name's Derek Wallace. I was a night foreman at a packaging plant outside of Columbus, Ohio. Busted my back for 14 years loading pallets, fixing busted rollers, crawling under machines at 3 a.m. because some rookie hit the wrong switch. The job sucked, but it paid the bills. Paid for Lena's master's degree, for the house, the minivan, the kids' dentist visits. All of it. I never complained. I thought that's just what men do. Work long hours. Provide. Protect. Die tired. So when things started getting weird with Lena, I blamed it on stress. Figured she was just burned out. Teaching full-time, managing 2 little ones under 6. She stopped laughing at my dumb jokes. Started staying out late on school nights. Wouldn't even say where she was going anymore. Just out with the girls or book club. Which was funny, 'cause Lena never read anything that didn't come with a receipt. But I let it slide. I gave her the benefit of the doubt because that's what you do when you've built a life with someone. You don't accuse them every time they act different. You wait. You trust. Until one afternoon, I came home early. One of the conveyor belts at work had shredded, and my supervisor told us to take the rest of the shift off. So I stopped at the gas station, grabbed chocolate milk for the kids, Ellie and Noah, and drove home, smiling like an idiot. I figured I'd catch them before nap time, maybe take them to the playground. I still had my steel toes on when I pushed through the front door. And then I saw him. Not Lena. Not the kids. Some guy? Sitting on my damn couch. He was barefoot, wearing sweatpants, no shirt. Just casually flipping through the remote like he was home. Like this was his house. There were 2 empty glasses on the coffee table. The throw blanket from the couch was on the floor. He looked at me like I was interrupting something. I stopped cold. My hands were still gripping the milk bottles. "Can I help you?" I said. He didn't move. Just looked me up and down. Then Lena came down the hallway, hair wet, wearing leggings and one of my hoodies. The second she saw me, she froze. "Derek?" she said, breath catching. "What are you doing home?" I stared at her, then at him. "I could ask you the same question." She opened her mouth, then closed it again. Panic started creeping into her eyes. This is Tyler," she said finally. "He's just a friend. It's not what you think." I've never had blood rush to my ears that fast. My vision literally pulsed. "A friend," I said. "A friend is shirtless in our living room while you're fresh out the shower? That kind of friend." She stepped forward, reaching for me. "Please, just listen. I can explain." I backed up. My hands were shaking. "No," I said. "I don't think you can." Tyler didn't say a word. He just sat there, arms crossed, watching the whole thing like it was a reality show. I looked back at Lena one last time. I remember the way her face twitched, like maybe she was about to cry, but no tears came. "I'm filing," I said. "This is done." And I walked out, left the milk on the kitchen counter. Never even saw the kids. The next few days were a fog. I stayed with my cousin, slept on an air mattress that deflated halfway through the night, and tried to eat like things were normal. But inside, I was unraveling. Every 5 minutes, I'd think about my daughter's laugh or the way my son used to fall asleep with one sock off, and my stomach would twist. Then the texts started. Not from Lena, from everyone else. Her sister, our old church friends, even my own damn mother. "Lena says you cheated. Why would you leave the kids like that? Don't punish her because you're angry." I thought I was losing my mind. One night, I finally called a mutual friend, Caleb, from my bowling league, and said, "Where are people getting this from?" He sighed. "Look, man, I don't want to stir the pot, but Lena's been telling people you've been seeing someone on the side for months. Said her name was Zoe or something. She even had screenshots." "Screenshots?" I said. "Yeah, texts. Looked legit." I nearly dropped my phone. There was no Zoe. There had never been a Zoe. I barely had time to breathe between work and parenting, let alone juggle some secret side relationship. But apparently, Lena had taken the liberty of creating one for me. The worst part wasn't the lies. It was the kids. I showed up for my first court-approved weekend. Brought a board game Ellie loved and a new soccer ball for Noah. I waited outside the house, heart in my throat. Lena opened the door. She had that dead-eyed stare I hadn't seen before. "They're not coming this weekend," she said flatly. "What?" "They don't want to see you." I blinked. "They're 5 and 3. She shrugged. "They're confused. And I'm not putting them through that." I tried to argue. I raised my voice. But she didn't budge. Just shut the door in my face. Later that week, I got a voicemail from Ellie's preschool. Apparently, she'd started calling me by my first name. Derek, not Daddy. I listened to that message on a loop. Like hearing it enough times would make it make sense. I cried that night in my truck, parked outside a CVS. Full on, ugly cried. Head on the steering wheel, gasping like I was drowning. I didn't leave my family. I walked in on my wife cheating. And now somehow, I was the villain. And I hadn't even started to see how bad it could get. You don't really understand how fragile your reputation is until someone starts lying with enough conviction to make it real. That's what Lena did. At first, I thought it would blow over. Thought once people heard both sides, the truth would come out. I figured I could prove I wasn't cheating. I hadn't even been texting anyone outside of work or family. But she was 2 steps ahead. Lena started planting things, messages she wrote from a fake number, screenshots she photoshopped. There were texts between me and a woman named Zoe that talked about sneaking around and finally leaving Lena. They were worded just vaguely enough to be damning. Just fake enough that if you wanted to believe I was a scumbag, they'd do the trick. Her family believed it. My own mother almost believed it. Just tell me the truth, Derek, she said one night on the phone, her voice thick with disappointment. Did you fall for someone else? I felt like the floor dropped out from under me. No, I said. Mom, no. I swear to God, I didn't cheat. She didn't respond for a few seconds. Then just said, you should call your sister, and hung up. I tried to be steady for the kids. I showed up every court-appointed weekend, even when they were late, even when they came with blank faces and didn't want to talk. Ellie used to run into my arms. Now she sat in silence in the back seat, staring out the window, arms crossed. Noah was even worse. He didn't call me Dad anymore. Just Derek. He was 3 years old, and already he was learning how to erase me. One weekend, I took them to the park, brought snacks, coloring books, everything Lena used to pack for them. We sat on a bench near the swings, and Ellie looked up at me and said, Mom said you stopped loving us. That sentence hit me like a gut punch. My hand actually jerked. What? She shrugged. That's why you left. You love your new girlfriend now. I couldn't breathe for a second. I reached for her hand, but she pulled it back. Ellie, I don't have a new girlfriend, I said. That's not true. I never stopped loving you or your brother. You're the most important people in my life. She looked away. Mom says you're just saying that so we won't be sad. I sat there in silence, swallowing the scream building in my throat. That night, I dropped them off and watched as they ran up the porch without turning back. Lena stood in the doorway, arms crossed, like she was watching a trespasser clear her lawn. She didn't say a word. I started gathering evidence. Screenshots, call logs, my GPS history, anything that might help me in court. But Lena was slippery. She deleted things, twisted things, sent emails under burner accounts. She'd prepared for this. While I was working 12-hour shifts and trying to keep our marriage alive, she'd been laying the groundwork to destroy me. She filed for primary custody, said I was emotionally unstable, that I had mood swings and inappropriate boundaries with the kids. She cited my yelling, how I once snapped after stepping on a Lego barefoot and swore under my breath. She said it scared Ellie. She brought up my old back meds from 2 years ago, claimed I relapsed. The woman I loved, the one I held while she cried after her mom's funeral, the one I wrote little notes for in her lunch bag, was now sitting across from me in court, telling a judge I wasn't safe to be around our children. And worst of all, she was convincing. She cried on the stand, told stories with perfect detail, mentioned the affair again and showed those fake texts. My lawyer did what he could, but the judge didn't want drama. He wanted clean custody exchanges and no conflict. So he granted Lena primary physical custody, gave me every other weekend and 2 Wednesday night dinners per month. I remember sitting in that cold courtroom, staring at the table where she sat, and thinking, she won. She actually won. The next few months broke me. I was in a fog so thick I couldn't tell if it was Tuesday or Sunday. I stopped going out. I stopped calling friends. Even work started to feel pointless. What was I working for? What was I building now? I barely saw my kids. And when I did, they looked at me like I was a substitute teacher they didn't want. I tried to write Ellie a letter, one she could read when she was older, when she was ready to hear my side. I couldn't even finish it. I kept breaking down halfway through. One night, I went over to pick them up and knocked on the door. Lena opened it and leaned against the frame. They're not coming today, she said. Noah's sick. No, she said calmly. They don't want to come. I laughed, bitter. They're 5 and 3. They don't get to decide that. She crossed her arms. They do when it's in their best interest. They're confused, Derek. You've made things too unstable. I'll call you when it's time. I didn't leave. What the hell does that mean? When it's time. They're my kids. I have rights. She leaned in slightly. You gave up those rights when you walked out. I walked out after I found another man in our house. On my couch. Half naked. Her face didn't change. You left, Derek. That's what they remember. You slammed the door. I stood there, feeling like I was floating above myself. Like my body was there, but the rest of me was screaming in some other dimension. Lena, I said, barely keeping it together. This isn't about us anymore. Don't do this to them. Her eyes flickered for a moment. Something passed over her face, regret maybe, or doubt. But it disappeared fast. I'll call you when it's time, she repeated, and shut the door. That was the last time I saw my kids for 7 months. I kept texting, kept emailing, kept calling. Sometimes I'd get a one-word reply, sometimes nothing. One night I left a voicemail for Ellie, just saying I loved her. I tried not to cry, but my voice cracked halfway through. No reply. And somewhere along the way, I stopped trying. Not out of spite, not out of anger, but because I couldn't keep bleeding for people who kept twisting the knife. I was burning myself alive to prove I was warm. And no one noticed. There's no clean way to describe what it feels like when your kids forget your face. It's like dying, but in slow motion. Like watching yourself vanish from a story you helped write. After Lena slammed that door and told me she'd call when it's time, I spent the next few weeks spiraling. I called a therapist. Didn't go. Bought groceries I didn't eat. Left the lights on because I couldn't stand the quiet. Started sleeping on the couch, not because the bed was too big, but because it was too full of memories. Her hair on the pillow. Ellie's giggle while jumping on the mattress. Noah hiding under the covers during thunderstorms. Gone. All of it. Some days I'd scroll through old photos just to feel something. Ellie in her ladybug costume. Noah in the tub with that goofy dinosaur toy. Lena, once, smiling at me across the table with that look I used to think meant everything. But eventually, even those stopped feeling real. Lena was good at erasing people. That's something I hadn't realized about her until the damage was already done. She didn't argue. She didn't scream. She rewrote. Quietly, efficiently. She'd craft a new version of events. One that made her the victim. And then she'd say it enough times that even the people closest to you started to believe it. Even the kids. One evening, after weeks of silence, I got a call from Ellie's daycare teacher. She said Ellie had drawn a family picture. Mom, her, and Noah. When asked about her dad, she'd said, "We don't have one. He left." I didn't cry when I heard it. I didn't scream. I just sat in my truck in the parking lot, engine off, and stared out the windshield for a full hour. The only thing I remember thinking was, I'm becoming a ghost in my own children's lives. Around that time, I moved. 2 towns over. A little place near Centerville. I took a job at a print shop. Nothing fancy. I cleaned toner out of machines, loaded paper trays, fixed paper jams. I liked the hum of the printers. It was white noise. Predictable. Machines don't lie. I didn't tell anyone much about my past. Just said I was divorced and didn't see my kids. Nobody asked why. That helped. The apartment I rented was small, just 1 bedroom, open kitchen. But it had a park across the street. On weekends, I'd sit on the bench with a coffee and just watch. Other families. Other dads with their kids. I didn't feel envy exactly. More like grief in slow motion. One Saturday, I saw a man hoist his daughter onto his shoulders. She squealed and clung to his forehead like it was a game. That used to be me. Now I couldn't even get a reply to a birthday card. Eventually, I went to therapy. For real this time. I sat in a beige room across from a woman named Darla, who looked like she'd seen 100 broken men before me. I didn't say much the first few sessions. Just stared at the floor and muttered when she asked me how I was feeling. But she didn't push. She just waited. And then, one day it all came out. The couch. The betrayal. The courtroom. The kids forgetting me. The way I talked to Noah's baby photo every night just to remember what his voice sounded like. I told her everything. And when I was done, I sat there shaking, hands clenched on my knees like I was bracing for impact. She didn't offer pity. Just looked at me and said, "You were rewritten, Derek. But that doesn't mean you were wrong." I broke down. Right there in that quiet little office. I cried like a man whose soul had been ripped in half. Because someone finally believed me. The healing wasn't linear. Never is. Some nights I still couldn't sleep. Still stared at the ceiling wondering if I should have stayed and fought harder. If walking out that day meant I'd handed Lena the whole narrative. But other days, I felt okay. Even peaceful. I started jogging. My knees hated it, but my brain needed it. Started cooking for myself again. Pancakes on Sundays. Cheap steaks on Fridays. Little routines that made me feel human. Then came Morgan. I met her at a used bookstore on a rainy Tuesday. I dropped a paperback. She picked it up. We talked. It was that simple. She was quiet, kind. Worked as a nurse tech. Wore scrubs with cartoon turtles on them. When I told her about my past, I braced for the same look everyone else gave me. Confusion, doubt, polite discomfort. But she didn't flinch. She asked questions. Real ones. And when I told her I used to write letters to my kids that I never sent, she didn't say anything. She just took my hand and squeezed it. It took time, but she saw all of me. The good, the broken, the parts that still flinched when I heard a child laugh the way Noah used to. She once said, "You don't have to keep bleeding for people who turn their backs." It stuck with me, because for the first time in years, I wasn't trying to prove anything. I wasn't fighting for a spot in someone else's story. I was just being. I never thought I'd get back to that place. But slowly, painfully, I did. Until the phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer. Thought it was spam or some scam trying to get me to renew a car warranty I didn't have. But something in me said to pick up. Hello. There was a pause. Then a voice I hadn't heard in years. Hey, it said. It's Noah. I felt my heart stop. He sounded older. Quieter. Like life had worn his voice down already. I know this is weird, he said quickly. And I know you probably don't want to talk to me. I get it. He inhaled sharply. I'm sorry, Dad. The last time I'd heard Noah's voice, he was barely out of diapers. Now it was coming through the phone like it carried the weight of the world. Dad, he said again, quieter this time. I just gripped the phone tighter and whispered, I'm here. He paused, like he didn't quite believe I answered. I didn't know who else to call, he said. I didn't even know if you'd pick up. I swallowed hard. You okay? No, he said. Not really. He told me everything. Tyler, the shirtless guy I found on my couch that afternoon, he'd split. Walked out 6 months ago. No warning. No note. Lena was spiraling. Drinking more. Missing work. And then came the DUI. She'd been pulled over with a blood alcohol level nearly double the limit. Noah and Ellie were in the back seat. That's what brought CPS into the picture. That's what got her parents involved. And that's when the truth started to leak out. They found stuff, Noah said. Letters. Photos. That dumb video of Ellie's 5th birthday. The one where you made that cake that looked like a deflated cat. I laughed. Couldn't help it. I stand by that cake. Creative design. Noah chuckled, but it didn't last. He cleared his throat. We didn't know about any of it, he said. But once we saw it, we started asking questions. Grandma had kept it all in a box. I guess she didn't believe Mom either. I was quiet. Just listening. Letting it sink in. And she told us, he said. The truth. About everything. I didn't say a word. My stomach was twisting up in knots. She admitted she lied. That she made up the texts. That she twisted the story to keep us close. Said she was scared you'd win us back. And she said she was sorry. I was still silent. She's in therapy now, Noah added. Trying to fix things. She wanted me to call you. But I wanted to call even before that. I closed my eyes. Just listening to him breathe. Ellie emailed you, he said. She said she misses you. She really does. And she wanted you to know she's sorry. Another pause. I know we don't deserve anything, he said softly. But I never stopped wondering about you. Even when I was mad. Even when I didn't understand. That night, I opened my email. There it was. Subject line. I'm so sorry, Dad. It was from Ellie. Long rambling. Raw. She talked about how confused she'd been. How sure she was that I had left them. How Lena told her I didn't want them anymore. That I was off living with someone else. But now, after finding the letters, after seeing the old photos and watching that stupid video of us all laughing around a cat-shaped birthday cake, it started to crack. The story Lena had built no longer held. I'm sorry for hating you, she wrote. I didn't know what was real. I just wanted to believe the parent I had left. Then, a few days later, Lena emailed too. Her message was short. Flat. Stripped of the spin I'd grown used to. I don't expect forgiveness, she wrote. I just want to be accountable. If you're willing to meet, I'd like to talk. Coffee. Just talk. I didn't reply. I wasn't there yet. Maybe never would be. But what really knocked the wind out of me? A letter. Handwritten. From Lena's parents. They said they were sorry. That they believed me now. That they'd seen the damage, the therapy sessions, the wreckage left behind when the truth finally came out. I see now what we let happen, her father wrote. I hope, someday, you'll forgive us for standing by when we should have stepped in. I didn't run back. I didn't storm the gates of the past, arms open. I'd spent too long learning how to stand again. But the wall I'd built around myself? It cracked. The first break came with a message from Noah. Would you be willing to meet up? Just me? We met at a diner. One of those sad little places off the highway with yellow booths and a jukebox that only played static. I got there early. Sat in the corner with my back to the wall, watching the door like I was bracing for a fight. When Noah walked in, I barely recognized him. 17 now. Lanky. Hair flopping into his eyes. That soft face from the photos now had sharp lines. He looked older than his years, like life had hit fast forward without asking. He slid into the booth and stared at the table. We didn't speak for 10 minutes. I counted every second. Finally, he said it. I remember things now. Stuff I didn't understand before. I didn't rush in. I didn't say, I told you so. I just nodded. He told me everything. How Lena had taken his phone when I texted. How she'd cried, weaponized guilt, said I was dangerous and selfish. Said I only cared about control. She made it sound like you were trying to ruin her, he said. That you didn't love us. Not really. I sat still, hands clenched on my coffee mug. But I missed you, he said. Even when I believed her. Even when I was mad. His voice cracked then. And mine did too. We didn't hug in the booth. We waited until the parking lot. When we did, it felt like holding a piece of myself I thought was long gone. A week later, Ellie reached out. Her message was cautious. Noah told me he saw you. I don't know what I want yet, but I think I need to see you too. We met at the park. Same one I used to sit at, watching other families. She didn't run up, didn't even sit right next to me. Just stared out at the pond for a while. Then she said, I believed everything she said, and now I feel like I was a pawn in someone else's war. You were a kid, I said gently. You were trying to make sense of the world. She didn't respond right away. Just let the breeze blow her hair across her face. I'm trying to make peace with it, she finally said. But I don't expect you to just forgive and forget. I'm not asking for that, I said. I just want to know you're okay. We talked until it got dark. About school. About therapy. About music she was into now. She never cried. But when she said goodbye, her voice cracked. I love you, Dad. And I managed to whisper it back through the lump in my throat. The door wasn't wide open yet. But for the first time in a decade, it wasn't locked. I wish I could say that was the end. That the kids came back, Lena apologized, and we all hugged under a sunset like some Hallmark movie. But that's not how real life works. Real life doesn't give you neat closure. It gives you people with jagged edges and timing that never lines up. A few days after I saw Ellie, I knew it was only a matter of time before Lena made her move. Sure enough, it started with a message. You're turning them against me. I never kept them from you. You just gave up. Then, when guilt didn't work, she switched to remorse. I made mistakes. So did you. We were both broken. Can we just talk? And when none of that landed, she showed up. It was a Tuesday. I was in the kitchen, chopping vegetables for dinner. Morgan, my partner now, was home early from work, humming some off-key tune while folding laundry. Then came the knock. Morgan answered. I looked up just in time to see her at the door, blocking Lena's view with a quiet, immovable calm. Lena was standing on the porch, too casual, like she was trying to look unbothered, but had practiced her lines in the car. I just want a few minutes, she said, smooth as ever. Morgan didn't raise her voice. Didn't flinch. You're not welcome here, she said. You need to leave. And she shut the door. Simple. Final. Clean. I didn't have to ask what was said. I could see it in Morgan's shoulders, steady and grounded. I walked over, and all I could say was, thank you. She leaned into me, forehead on my chest, and whispered, you don't owe anyone your peace. And I believed her. 2 weeks later, I got a letter. Handwritten. My name on the front in that same neat, slanted script I used to see on birthday cards. It sat on the counter for hours before I touched it. When I finally opened it, I read it twice. Lena didn't defend herself. Didn't spin. She owned it. She said she let bitterness rot her from the inside out. That she used the kids like shields. That she chose revenge instead of grace. And she knew, now, that she'd stolen something sacred from all of us. I didn't just destroy our marriage, she wrote. I destroyed the best version of you. And I made our kids carry the weight of my wounds. I'm sorry. I really am. I folded the letter and put it in the drawer where I keep old pictures and baby socks I couldn't throw away. I didn't write back. Some doors don't need to be opened. Some people, even if they finally understand, don't get to step back into your life. Noah comes over most weekends now. He still looks unsure sometimes, like he's afraid the whole thing might fall apart again. He helps me cook, and it's a disaster every time. He oversalts everything and sets off the smoke detector at least once a month. But we laugh. We binge awful movies and make fun of them like it's our job. He's obsessed with old video games, pixelated, glitchy, barely playable. And every time I try to beat him, he finds some broken strategy to win. Still undefeated, he says with a smirk, and I flip him off, and we laugh like hell. He still flinches a little when I say, I'm proud of you. Like the words bounce off before they can settle. But I say them anyway. Every time. Because he needs to hear them. And I need to say them. Ellie takes longer. She visits sometimes. Calls more than she used to. Sends me links to songs, photos of dogs and sweaters, memes that make her laugh. The things she never sent before. A few weeks ago, she sent me a picture of the birthday card I gave her when she turned 6, the one with the glittery astronaut and the cheesy "to the moon and back" line. I thought Lena threw that stuff out years ago, but Ellie kept it. In a shoebox. Taped shut. Hidden. She told me I couldn't bring myself to toss it. Even when I thought I hated you. We don't talk about Lena much. And that's okay. Because we talk about now. And that's enough. It's not perfect. There are still days where I wake up expecting silence. Where I rehearse how to respond if someone throws the past back in my face. Where I wonder if the damage is still living in me somewhere I haven't found yet. But I'm here. And they're here. And we're trying. So where do I stand now? Not angry. Not bitter. Still healing, sure. Still learning how to breathe in a life that doesn't revolve around proving I was a good man to people who already made up their minds. But I'm not broken anymore. I've got Morgan. God, Morgan. She never once asked me to move on. She just stood next to me while I figured out how to stop bleeding. She never compared herself to Lena. Never asked for more than honesty. And when I told her I wasn't sure if I could ever go through that kind of loss again, she just nodded and said, then we go slow. So we did. And it's working. As for Lena, I wish her healing. I really do. But she can do it over there. Not in my home. Not in my head. And not in the space I've rebuilt with blood and time and hard-earned silence. She gave up her place when she chose to burn the bridge and salt the ground behind it. What I have now, it's smaller, quieter, but it's mine. And for the first time in a long time, it feels like peace.